How do you get there?
Okay, so this is very, very simple. As simple as I'm about to say, a lot of agents don't know how to do this. The ability to self-reflect is by far the most important thing. Started off as my client, now you're my friend, and that's kind of how I've seen the relationship grow. But I'm going to tell you the unconventional things that are probably not there. Most people aren't willing to look themselves in the mirror and say what they did right and what they did wrong.
In today's episode of the 5 to 9 podcast, we interview Joel Leos. Joel is a friend of mine and a successful realtor agent in the San Antonio area. He's been an agent for about 8 years, a successful entrepreneur, and a great leader. Today, we talk about Joel's path to becoming a realtor, some advice for new or up-and-coming realtors, and the importance of mentorship. At the end of the podcast, we'll discover what Joel's personal brand is, and we'll put it to the test through some branding elements. With that being said, let's get into the podcast. All right, Joel, thank you for being here.
Yeah,
I appreciate
of course.
you coming in to the podcast. This is the first episode, and I know you're a very busy person, so I really appreciate your time and coming in here.
Of course.
This is a really personal podcast to me because when I came to the United States, my parents had a few visions for me. So it was, you're going to get educated, you're going to go to college, you're going to, grow to be healthy as best I can. Then you're going to go buy a house, and then you're going to get married. So I'm getting now to that end of my parents' goals and, what was like an overarching goal coming to the United States.
Yeah.
And a big point that I had to go through every time I had to go through these milestones is like, what school am I going to go to? What house am I going to buy? Who am I going to marry?
Yeah.
And all of them, I've had great help. Some people that were, they were looking for nothing else but my best interest. When buying a house, it was the first time I ran into people who were always trying to sell me something, or maybe it was a little disingenuous. I never felt like someone would have my best interest as much as you did. When I bought my house. And I bought 2 houses with you.
You did, yeah.
So I just wanted to first say that it is really meaningful to me, the work that you've personally done for my family and the way that you do your work. So I don't think that comes easy. I don't think a lot of people can have that skill. Selling a house, something that's so intimate, so personal. It's literally part of your family. Is where you raise your kids. You grow older. Maybe it's like an opportunity for investment.
Yeah.
How do you get there?
Well, first of all, thank you so much for sharing that with me. I think this is probably the first time we've actually ever said that out loud, because I think we've had a good friendship ever since I met you when it came to buying the first house. And I think that we've continued that. So you started off as my client, now you're my friend. And that's kind of how I've seen the relationship grow. But I think this is the first time you've ever said that to me. So I appreciate that. Man, if we try to go back and think about, what and how I got started in real estate, I'm going to narrow it down to one moment in time, which is when I was early mid-teens. I became a very big fan of Donald Trump. Back then, he was doing the Apprentice shows, and he was Donald Trump, the real estate mogul. He was not a politician or not into politics as he is today. And so The Art of the Deal was my first book that I bought about real estate. At that moment, I think I can see the birth of my real estate dreams through reading The Art of the Deal and through wanting to be as successful as Donald Trump in the sense of real estate and being a real estate mogul. I was really fascinated with it. I love real estate, not specifically for the transactions, but I like real estate in general. And I say that because I'm talking about not just residential, right? I like commercial real estate. I like architecture. I like the fact that real estate is it can be so creative depending upon who designs the piece of property, right? Yeah. So I've always been really, really, really fascinated with that aspect, found my interest in real estate. And then when you combine it with my genuine interest in architect and just buildings in general, I'd say that's where my career started.
The first time I heard about Donald Trump, it was always in a political context. Yeah. I was very unaware of where he was coming from. I just understood he came from a large amount of wealth, right, and that was about it. I know some people, I remember when he first started running, I had some classmates in college that were saying like the guy from this show, is running for president. So I didn't make the connection at the time of who Donald Trump was. But I did some research on Donald Trump at the time, and I did realize he did a lot of achievements. I understand where you'd be coming from. So you just finished reading The Art of the Deal.
Yep.
You got inspired to go into real estate. You had this affinity for architecture and real estate in general.
Yeah.
What is your trajectory to getting there and going into college and committing completely to that route?
Sure. I didn't have anything to lose, right? So I don't come from a wealthy family, single parent household who my mom was working 2 jobs and I barely saw her. I didn't have anything to lose at that time, and I was just chasing dreams, and I had nobody to tell me that I couldn't do it, even though most of my upbringing, I had family members and people around me that said I wouldn't do it, right? But nobody that said I couldn't do it. So I was really chasing dreams, and I didn't have anything to lose. And so once I read that book and really just went for it in terms of, I thought college and going and getting a formal education about real estate finance and development was the way to go. That was the way to success. I had to always be working. So there was never a point in my college career where I didn't have a job. Ultimately, that morphed several times through my college career, simply because I stopped chasing my dream to go into real estate, and I started looking at career fields that I can earn a salary in. And because the older I got and the more I had to work, the more I became less focused on chasing this entrepreneurial goal to, okay, I need a steady income to be able to provide for myself. I need to pay my car. I need to, pay my rent. And so that caused me to morph and transition my concentration in college several times. And then, of course, as I got older, those financial obligations became more and became more and became more. And then college became, okay, I can't go to full-time college in this semester, so let me do 1 or 2 classes, right? So that's why my college career took me about 10 years to complete, because it was never something that I could do full-time and depend on, family to support me through college. And at that point, I was just trying to get any degree that I thought would help lead to a good paying job so I can support myself.
Yeah, I understood completely. I think many times in college, I was thinking, in which way can I go into a career that I can have my own business with or something like that. But as soon as I started creeping into, okay, how am I going to pay rent? How am I going to buy my first house? How am I going to do it? I started to just completely taking out of the equation the idea of opening a business. So I think that's probably more prevalent now. Just, rent prices going up and, inflation and everything. Probably people are just not as risk takers as they used to be at the time.
Right.
So I understand that 100%.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of challenge there that I see into real estate that I myself still recognize, even though I'm not a real estate agent in any way. For example, there's millions of real estate agents out there. What gave you the confidence to go into real estate at that time in recognition of those challenges? And could you maybe mention some of these challenges?
Yeah, I started my real estate career while I was going through college on a part-time basis while I was working full-time. I started in real estate because even though I kind of gave up on it and was looking at jobs that would pay me a steady income. What I realized through getting those jobs that would pay me a steady income is that they never pay you what you're worth. They only pay you, well, one, what's in their budget or what they can afford. And for me, that was never enough to equate in what I gave back right? And it's through that evolution of understanding that I am more valuable than what I'm getting in return from my employer, that I decided to try make some quote unquote commission through sales, right? I was like, okay, I can work for a good, reputable company, and I could be so and do that role as a salesperson, but still have an opportunity to make a higher income than what I'm currently making now. And so it was through that kind of thought process where I was like, you know what, I've never done sales before. I'm not chasing the residential, real estate kind of thing at this moment. What I'm chasing is money. And I need that to survive. And I found that the normal job wasn't going to do it for me. So ultimately, I tried sales, and it's through that sales career where I found some success in my ability to connect with people, my ability to talk to people and talk people into doing things, because that's the sales way. Well, it was that I understood I could make a lot more money for my time. And that was that point where I felt like I was getting enough back from what I was doing. And I felt really, really good. For the first time in my life, I was making over six figures in that sales role. I was doing phenomenally well in terms of growth as an individual because I was doing outside sales. And so I had a lot of money for somebody in that age. I think I was about 25, 26. And ultimately, through the sales practice, I found myself building up my confidence. And at that moment, it's when I decided to go back and try real estate again. Because I never lost that bug. I never lost that dream. I never lost it. I just suppressed it for a good period of time and was trying to figure out how I can make ends meet.
Yeah.
And now that I had found some success in the sales, I got really confident, and I decided to try my hand at my real estate license. And I really believed the first time, right, is when I did it. I really believed I was going to be phenomenal at it. So the first challenge for me when I went in was I didn't know what to do. Right. Like when I made this decision to move from here to here, right, from sales for this company to an individual real estate agent, I didn't know what to do. And luckily for me, at that time, right, there was all these kinds of real estate schools that I found and was able to get some guidance from. The internet wasn't as popular then as it is now, so I couldn't just Google it. And so that was the first obstacle, was finding somebody in that day and age that would be able to help you through this process. And once I did that, interviewing with a broker was a little bit more challenging then than it is now. And then, of course, through that practice, there's a lot of support and a lot of experience that I did not have, that pose their own obstacles the first time around, which is one of the reasons why I believe that I was not a successful real estate agent the very first time I got my real estate license and started practicing.
Okay. So if someone wants to be a doctor or a lawyer or, a pediatrician, whatever it may be,
right,
they know exactly where to go. There's colleges, there's routes, there's a career path, a curriculum and everything.
Right.
When it comes to real estate, what would you need to get started? Would you be able to break that down in like 3 to 5 minutes just to understand, if you are new to real estate, you want to get into it, what is the steps you need to take to get there?
Well, right now in today's society, there's so much information available. So like you can literally just Google that and you can probably have 100 videos of people talking about it. And it can be, lots of links to real estate school's website. But I'm going to tell you the unconventional things that are probably not there. At least, I haven't tried to Google that, so I'm not quite sure if it's there or not. It may be. But I will tell you some of the things that you need to get started. Number one, right? The first and foremost thing that you need to get started in real estate is that you need to make a decision a conscious decision to be a real estate agent. That needs to be a conscious decision. Okay. Just because you go through the process of getting your real estate license doesn't mean you made that decision.
Yeah.
Right. Just because you go and sit for the exam, you get with your first broker, you like start doing real estate stuff. That still doesn't mean that you made that decision. What it means is that you're moving, right? But you're not and may not be really going anywhere if you haven't sat down with yourself and you haven't made the conscious decision and asked yourself and told yourself, one, do I really want to be a real estate agent? And two, do I want to be a successful real estate agent? So what I would say is you need to sit down with yourself and you need to have a conscious decision that you are going to be a successful real estate agent. Two, I got three things. Two, you got to put movement behind it now. Now you got to put action behind your decision. Means that you can't just move through things hoping to figure it out. When you make an intentional decision, you, one, know where to begin and you know where it ends. That's what happens through intention. Okay. And then after you make an intentional decision to move and put action behind your decision, then you need to do the third thing, which I think was what most real estate agents don't do. I think this is where they fall short all the time, is that they have to be able to look inside themselves and they have to be able to reflect on their decision making as they move through real estate processes. So you have to be able to self-reflect. Look inside yourself, say, am I doing things the right way? What could I be doing better? What happened with this conversation with this buyer client? What happened with this conversation in the seller client? Where did I fall short? Where did I succeed? Where did I do something right? The ability to self-reflect with yourself and be critical of the things that you're doing wrong or perhaps have shown to be a failure, like you lose a client, right? Because of something you did and or something you didn't do. The ability to self-reflect is by far the most important thing and most important thing that I attribute to my success, because if you can look inside yourself and you can identify what you did right, what you did wrong, then that allows you to course correct sooner rather than later. And if you keep waiting for somebody to course correct you without doing it yourself, you're going to be so far down the path that you may have made too many errors to be able to come back to that initial starting point and get your career back on target, right? So self-reflecting, for me, allows us to make adjustments within ourselves that'll allow us to continue to grow as professionals, but also to continue to grow as successful real estate agents. So you make a conscious decision, then you put intentional action behind it, then you self-reflect consistently, create a habit of it. Once you self-reflect, then you go back to step 2 and you put more intentional action behind what you just learned about yourself. Most people aren't willing to look themselves in the mirror and say what they did right and what they did wrong, right? They may only just stop at what I did right. It's not me. I'm not the problem. It's you, right? Yeah. Well, first of all, that's your mindset, then you are the problem, right? But if you start right there, those are the 3 things that I think you need in order to be a successful real estate agent.
Okay. That's very insightful. I think it's something that I personally had to go through. Setting up this podcast to begin with took me many tries. Just like a quick story there.
Yeah.
I wanted to start a podcast back in Orlando. So this is like 3 years ago when I haven't even met you yet.
Yeah.
And then I tried the same in Canyon Lake when I was there and I couldn't do it. And it took
me that.
So it took me until this time to actually get it there. And it's been a struggle I had personally many times. It's just, how can I pick something I'm really motivated to do and then put it action and intention behind it. So this is my first take at doing that.
Yeah.
So it took me years to realize that, and it's very difficult to do. So
well, congratulations.
Thank you, Joel. So yeah, I appreciate that. I think anybody, regardless of real estate, should definitely take that advice.
Yeah.
So where does mentorship take place into all of this? Do you just do your own school? I know you went to school for real estate, finance, and what was the last part?
Development.
And development.
But I got my degree in accounting, so that does not count.
Oh, okay.
Mentorship. Yeah. Wow. It's so hard in our career field to find good, reliable mentors that are willing to give you everything that you need without the expectation of anything in return. And so I was fortunate enough to link up with a real estate professional who had been doing it a lot longer than I had. And he was very honest with me, at least in my opinion. And through his honesty, he became my mentor. And so I say that to say this, right? You got to find a mentor. Mentors are not going to come out and say, hey, I'm a mentor. If they do, beware, because they probably have some kind of cost associated with their mentorship, right?
Yeah.
If you want a true mentor, and I'm not saying that those mentors aren't bad, the mentors that you pay for, or coaches that you pay for. What I'm saying is if you want a true mentor, and a true mentor to me is a mentor that can be there in your professional life, but also in your personal life, right? A true mentor is somebody that you have to go out and find. And then once you find them, you got to connect with them as well, right? You got to build that relationship with them on a personal level. It can't be like, hey, you're a successful real estate agent. I'd love for you to mentor me. Well, in that case, they may hit you up for a fee, right? They may say, okay, well, my time's money, right? Like, I'm not just going to do this out of the goodness of my heart. Yeah. And they may say that because they don't know you. Right. And one of the things that I've learned in sales is that people don't care what you know until they know that you care. And that's the good part of building building relationships is that you got to care first. OK, if you want to build a relationship, you got to care. And so in this particular case, when it comes to finding a mentor in real estate, a successful mentorship partner is going to be both of the professional side and the personal side. And I say that the personal comes first and the professional will follow after that. So find somebody in your office or in your sphere or in that real estate network that you're in and connect with them on a personal level.
How would you suggest finding a good mentor? Like, what is a framework that people could follow?
It's very, very simple. Very, very simple. Open your mouth and talk.
Okay.
It really is that simple, right? Like, you don't know who's going to be a good mentor fit. You don't know if anybody will be willing to be a mentor to you, but you don't know until you ask. And in this case, what I'm saying is don't go ask for a mentorship. Seek out a friend who just so happens to be a successful real estate agent. Seek out a friend. Okay. And you do that by opening your mouth and saying hi, right? Hi, I'm Joel. And so many people nowadays are so afraid to just say hi and introduce themselves to somebody that they don't know. That is the worst. I've never seen anything like this. So finding a good mentor is just go and talk, connect with them on a personal level first, right? And then through that personal relationship, you'll develop a professional relationship because they'll overlap. Now, make sure you're not talking to just anyone, right? Be intentional behind your decisions and behind your actions. Talk to those real estate agents that you would like to have as a mentor, that you would like to have as a friend. And those real estate agents are typically going to be the ones that are where you want to be. Okay, so seek them out and create that personal relationship.
Okay. Makes sense. I never really considered reaching out for a mentor for what I'm doing currently right now. But I think primarily is because I've tried to educate myself as much as I can. So I've been reading tons of books on like marketing, branding,
Right.
anything that has to do positioning. But I haven't personally met, like you said, a friend who is doing this, someone who I want to be in their shoes eventually. So I appreciate the advice.
You gotta seek out friends, because I understand what your approach is, because that's my approach as well, in the sense that reading books is the great avenue for information, right? Looking up things online, great avenue for information, okay? But having that mentor who's your friend is an even better avenue, because it's real, it's tangible, and it's fluid. The conversation can go back and forth, where if I'm reading a book, I'm only getting one side, right? I can't talk back to the book. I could, but I'm not going to get the answers back, right? Yeah. If I Google something, I can get that feedback from Google, and it could potentially help me, but it may also spawn another question. And now I'm Googling multiple things, where if you're having a dynamic friendship with somebody who is where you want to be, then that conversation is fluid, but also you're going to get a lot of behind the scenes stuff that you will not get reading a book. And ultimately the answer is that you don't know what you don't know. Now, some of these books that we've read may have been written by people who practiced it in real life. But guess what? In our life, it's theory, because we haven't practiced it. We haven't put it into, reality. It's still theory. So find yourself someone who's doing it now, who's successful at it, and create a friendship.
Yeah, that's super well said. I've heard a similar tip before, where books, they're trying to cover a general audience. And so when you say, okay, I want to learn about real estate, it ends there. But if you say real estate in San Antonio, there's no book, you know, maybe there's one, I don't know.
Yeah.
But if you say,
good question.
example,
I haven't asked. I haven't asked the Googler about it.
yeah. So I agree. I think books is a great, like a reference for the basics, the theory, the things that you want to do. But when you get to practice, mentorship is where, you make that connection to where you are working, the things you're going to do, and the theory from books.
Yeah, absolutely. And I can call up my mentor and I can ask him a real estate based question, and he's going to square me away. But I can also call up my mentor and be like, hey, dude, you want to go grab a beer? Because I need the bitch, right? Like, I need to get some stuff off my chest. And he's like, dude, let's go, because I got to get some stuff off my chest too. Do you see what I'm saying?
Yeah, it's
those
different.
are the best kind of friendships that you can have.
Okay. Noted. So we went through the who, the what, the how. I'd love to know a little bit more about the why. So, for example, right now we're working through a brand company. It's what we're trying to do with Ruta, and part of that is just surfacing the personality of a company. Okay. So when I say, okay, I'm going to design a logo, we're going to do a commercial, we're going to do a marketing campaign for your company. Right. We're going to package everything for what is it you deliver. We don't say, for example, okay, you're, let's say, a packaging company, you make boxes and then you deliver, the goods or whatever it may be.
Right.
It's you provide security and safety for the message that you care for people. So there's an intention behind a company in the way that you brand it and position. When it comes to real estate, and this is my personal experience, I think I shared with you that I had spoken with some other real estate agents before I moved to San Antonio to Texas from Florida. And a lot of times they would talk to me about, okay, here's the house, here's how many bedrooms, here's how much it'll cost, and they'll give me like a chart and how much it's going to grow over time. So to me, it seemed like they were selling me the data, the physical part about buying a house. And to me, it didn't have that connection to, okay, I'm going to live there. Is it going to be well located? Like, is it going to make me feel safe? Right. Could I raise a family here? There was no questions about the goal, the intention behind selling a house. And there's the part that was very different about working with you, which was, okay, here's all you need to know about the city. Here's why it would be great for you and your family, your goals, and particularly what you're looking for. So it goes back to that analogy of selling the vacation, not the flight, when it comes to that.
Yeah.
Could you talk a little bit about that in terms of real estate and how to better position you as a real estate agent so that you don't make that mistake in trying to sell the numbers rather than the mission?
Yeah. Okay. So I go back to something that we mentioned earlier about finding a mentor. I practice what I preach. In the sense that if I'm going to go out there and find a mentor, what I'm going to try to do is I'm going to try to build a relationship with somebody that that is where I want to be. And I'm going to try to do that on a personal level before I start going into the business side. All right. I do that with my customers and my clients all the time. At Monarch Mail, our mail store, we focus on the customer. We focus on developing that personal relationship as soon as they walk into the door. And one of the way we did that is by creating a comfortable environment that one will put them at ease, but also is it inviting, it's welcome, it has energy, it has somewhere that you want to be. And then we couple that with our personal interaction with them. Okay. I do that with my clients, right? As soon as I get a phone call or as soon as I get a referral, somebody I've never talked to before, but one of my clients sends it to me, or they reach out to me through the Google business profile, so on and so forth. The first thing that I want to do is create a personal relationship with that client. Period. End of story. Okay. I don't care about what they're trying to buy, what they're trying to sell. That is not paramount to me. What is paramount to me is to creating a personal connection right off the bat, right? And the way that I do it, because it is genuine to who I am, is I like to be energetic, right? I like to have a good, positive vibe. I like to be, I'd like to be likable, right? Because you're going to get way further by being a likable person in life than you would if you don't evolve or grow as a person. And that's what I think this process is about in terms of real estate as a whole, growing and evolving as a person. And so when we stand out as agents, I may not be the most experienced agent out there. I may have not sold the most expensive home in the city, right? And I may not have a catalog, right, of really high-end properties. I don't care about any of that, right? I will sell $1 million house, and I have million plus, just as I will a $60,000 unimproved lot. None of those make any difference to me in terms of the products. What matters the most to me is the relationship with the client. Okay. So when I approach my client building relationships, I approach them in a way that I would like to be approached as a person, because that's where I think we have failed in society, that we no longer care about people. And I'd like to be that change that I'd like to see in the world. And I try to every day through the practice of my business and through the keeping up of relationships is, Misa, you're a friend. You started off as a client. You're a person. I care about you. I care about Alex. I care about what you're doing more than I care about, Misa, are you ready to buy that next house? When are you going to sell this house, Misa? Right? Like, do you know any friends or family members who wants to buy a house? I don't care about any of that. Right? I mean, in the long run, is it something that is important to my career as a real estate agent? Yeah, it is. But it's not what I build my career on. I build my career in real estate on creating these relationships on a personal level with my clients. And through that cultivation and through keeping up that relationship on a personal level, my real estate business has grown and continues to grow through referrals, and through people just, sharing the good word about the services that I offer. And that's how I stand out. That's what I believe we do different, is we focus on the person. We focus on building a relationship with you, and then we focus on how we can help exceed your real estate goals, right? Because that's my priority, is helping you be successful in your real estate goals. But, right, my real priority is connecting with you as a person, because you're not a paycheck. You're not a commission. You're not another property to put in my feather. You're not another buyer or a seller.
Okay. That's really insightful. You mentioned something there that kind of pricked up my ear a little bit.
Yeah.
So when you're talking about success in real estate, with a successful client relationship that you might have, what does that look like at the goal? So for example, in my case, when I bought my first house with you, I was looking what could be a good investment opportunity for me in renovating. We know that didn't go. But
we don't have to talk about that, Misa.
It doesn't matter. It's okay. But at that time, when I bought the house, I was happy regardless. Even when I sold the house, I was still happy with your service because I understood that the goal was set at the beginning of what we're trying to do, and you more than delivered on that. So no problem there. So I'm sure that changes from client to client to client, depending on what you're selling, who you're selling with.
Yeah.
Could you talk a little bit about the process of surfacing what that goal is with each client?
Yeah. So priority is, again, building that personal relationship. Once we build that personal relationship, which is going to happen throughout the transaction and through our conversations, almost on an hourly basis or a daily basis, I learn to know what your goals are in terms of real estate, right? Like, what is it that I can do for you? What is it that you're looking for? How can I best serve you? Okay. That's kind of how I approach it. And in that scenario, that's how we develop what the goals are of our relationship, which is personal / mostly business, because you hired me to do a job or you want me to do a job, but we have a personal relationship going on at the same time, right? And so it's through that conversation and through that evolution of the relationship where we identify what your goals are when it comes to real estate. And then success for me looks at the end of that like exceeding your goals. Like that's always my goal, is through our interaction. One, at the end of the transaction, I want you and I to be friends. That's how I roll, right? I really just do. Two, I want you to feel like I've exceeded your expectations and that you are, just not only a fan, but a raving fan and a friend as well. So the goals vary by client and it depends on what we're doing. But I'll give you a great example of something like this. I just sold a house in Stone Oak in past couple of months, right? I can't really remember. But we just sold a house in March. I think it was March, April, something like that. And the client had reached out to me through my Google business profile, Clay. And first thing we did was set a face-to-face appointment. And then we got in there and we do our listing appointments in 2 different appointments. The first one is a walk and talk, where I can see your property and we can establish this relationship, start building the personal relationship. And then the second one is when we do, go back the next day and we do a pricing presentation and listing presentation, all that good stuff. And so I met this family and our first appointment was that walk and talk, and we got a really good relationship going, a good vibe going. Second was listing presentation and pricing presentation. And it was a successful transaction, right? We sold the property at a record-breaking price per foot for his community, for his submarket, which is good. But then that relationship continued, and it continued almost kind of by accident, simply because we were both involved in a extracurricular basketball league for our kiddos. And so that's why I'm saying it kind of evolved by accident, because we saw each other during the transaction, not only in our professional business meetings, but at our kids basketball league, right? And then it just grew and grew and grew and grew and grew. And I just saw him today as I dropped my boy off at his Spurs basketball camp, and we sat and we talked, we caught up. The house closed and sold, like over a month and a half ago. And we're like, hey, let's get together this week. Let's go hang out. So it's practice what I preach, but also it's real. And the goals are very different for every client. But it's through that evolution of the relationship that you figure out what their goals are and how you can exceed them. And then it's my goal at the end of it to make sure that I don't just meet the standard or meet the expectation. It's my goal that I've exceeded the expectation, because that's how I believe you build your real estate career. And you build your real estate career through that process, but also that becomes your reputation. And then you do it one transaction at a time. And before you know it, you are a successful real estate agent and you're like, what happened? How did I get here?
Okay. No, that makes a lot of sense. That is so interesting. Another thing I've noticed is I went to a Spurs game I think it was like 2 months ago.
Yeah.
And I was very surprised to see, you've probably seen this guy like all over town. It was Elmer's Plumbing. I don't know if you're familiar with them.
I see their trucks.
Yeah, their trucks are very stylish. There's this really big painted van, and it says Elmer's in the back, plumbing and HVAC.
Right.
And it was just Elmer in a quick commercial, just shooting in the hoop, and that was it. But basically, he was trying to communicate at that time, or at least what I got, is that he's based in San Antonio. He supports the Spurs, and he's involved in local community events like that one. Mm-hmm. So there's a big emphasis, I think, in marketing for plumbing, like Elmer's doing. I've seen also what is interesting is the majority of the billboards for law is for personal injury.
Right.
But you don't see a lot of immigration. You might see some, but not as many as you would for the guy with force, for example.
Yeah.
What does marketing look like for real estate? And could you maybe describe where it branches out? I understand, for example, you might have your personal brand that you might want to advertise or market some way.
Right.
Maybe you have a way to advertise your team, and maybe you have a way to advertise the houses that you're listing.
Yeah.
Could you break that down for us?
Sure. So I think marketing for us is personal. That's the personal connections that we make with our past clients and with our future clients. So personal is the first avenue that I always go to when it comes to marketing, because again, people don't care what you know, right, until they know that you care. So while I understand the Elmer's ad, right, got in front of you guys at the Spurs game, and that may make some kind of impact. Obviously, people way smarter than me have determined that is a good ROI. But I get my plumber from asking somebody that I know, like, and trust.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, 100%.
All right. So in this case, building personal relationships is our first avenue of marketing. And it's with personal relationships with people we don't know. And it's people in areas that we want to be in. Okay. That's the first marketing. Okay. That's our primary source of marketing. Our secondary marketing, and we can kind of go on, these are all secondary for me, is farming. We do farming in specific neighborhoods where we would like to be in. The third, and again, not in order, right? These are just secondary ones. The Google Business Profile. I believe in the Google Business Profile because that one client that we had a really good successful experience with us, they go and leave a Google Business Profile like you guys did. And then that transaction history lives forever, right? It lives forever in the Google Business Profile. And then it adds up because yours plus more continues to add up. And ultimately, it's a good way to share past experiences with future customers, but it's also a good way to self-reflect, because when I'm asking my clients for a Google Business Profile, I said, hey, look, we strive to earn 5 stars. If I haven't done that, if I haven't earned 5 stars, tell me, let me know how I can improve, because that's the only way I'm going to get better at this, right? And so when you do that to your client and you open yourself up for that kind of feedback, one, I've never found it where people say, no, you sucked, you were horrible, and we're not going to give you 5 stars, right? But also, two, I think it communicates to them that you're a person and you're genuinely trying to do your best, and you like some feedback on whether or not you've met their expectation. So Google Business Profile is one that I heavily rely on to share past experiences with future clients. And then I think the last secondary one would be through our website, just through our website, where we can showcase a little bit more about us. We can also use our website to communicate with current or future clients or past clients, and kind of keep them informed, through market reports, what's happening in their neighborhood in terms of pricing, but also, and they can go in there and not even have any conversation with me and play around with the website. And next thing you know, they created a home search that they didn't have to talk to me about because they were able to control everything. Mm-hmm. And now our website's sending them stuff. So I would say those are the avenues when it comes to marketing ourselves as real estate professionals. There's a completely separate marketing for marketing a house when we are trying to sell it for a client.
Okay. What does that process look like? I tried doing some real estate photography in the past, this.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
And I understand first, it's super competitive when it comes to going into real estate photography because everybody, when they're starting off, they want to offer the services for free as much as they can. And I feel like there's no an end to it. There always will be opportunity there. But I recognize that the difficult part is optimizing for what is a good picture, what would be something that would increase the value at the time of listing. And it only comes with experience, I feel. There's obviously there's Zillow, there's Realtor, there's other places to list in. How would you suggest a real estate agent who might want to improve their listings on these websites? What would they have to do to make it better?
Okay, so this is very, very simple. Very, very simple. And unfortunately, while it is as simple as I'm about to say, a lot of agents don't know how to do this, even though they get taught at least the first part of this. You want to sell a house, make sure it's priced right. Period. End of story. Right? And when you say price right, you're going to do a competitive market analysis, which is what's actively for sale right now. Who are your competitors? And then you're going to do a comparative. So what has sold in the last 6 to 12 months that potentially could have been something similar to your house. So you're going to do both of those. And then you're going to be informed on where the market is going. Right? Where is your local market going? Are prices going up? Are prices going down? If you're not looking at your board of realtors, whatever board that is, your board of realtors weekly sales review, then you're doing yourself a disjustice because you're not staying in tune with what's happening in your market. Figure out where your prices are going. Figure out where the market is going as a whole. Okay. And then once you have all three of those factors, you have your comparative, you have your competitive, and you have an idea of what your local real estate market is doing, right? I'd like to hope you have more than idea, to be honest. You have some really genuine information through not only those weekly reports, but perhaps even some involvement in your board or in the organizations that are real estate focused. Then you come up with your pricing, and you price to sell. You price to, of course, meet your client's goals, but you price to sell. Okay, so that's the first thing. The second thing that I think most real estate agents don't do, and I don't think that, I know that because just go to the MLS and you'll see all these darn photos that look crappy. Declutters. Real estate agents don't know how to declutter. They just don't. And they don't want to hire a company to come and do it for them because most real estate agents don't have the money for it, right? They just don't because they don't know how to manage money either. That's another story. But declutter. And I declutter all of my clients' houses personally because I know how to do it. So it doesn't cost me any money in terms of paying for a service, but it also adds value to my clients because I'm going to showcase your property to not only sell it, but it's going to look good. And you're not going to want to move. Most of my clients, I've said this a lot, once we get done with the declutter and we get their house staged, which again, I do, they're like, we should have done this a long time ago, Joel. Why didn't we call you when we were living in the house, right? And then once they see the photographs and how they look after you've decluttered and you stage, then they are like, I'd buy this house. Well, like, great, because it's a simple process because you own it. So, declutter. Most agents don't know how to do it. It's phenomenal. You just got to know what you're doing, or you got to hire a service to do it. The staging, I don't ever get my clients to pay for staging. I don't pay for staging. I stage with the furniture they have. Mm-hmm. And the furniture they have is going to be the furniture that I ask them to keep in the home from our declutter walk. Mm-hmm. So initial walk is declutter. Let's get rid of some of this stuff because you do not sell a house the way you live in it. Mm-hmm. And then when I tell you what to leave behind, that's because I'm going to use that to stage your house. I'm not going to leave it. I may or may not leave it in the same place it is. I'm going to play around with it to best showcase the floor plan. And then 3, you got to look at it through your buyer, through your target buyer's eyes. Okay. I have the luxury of having experience working for a builder. And so in that case, I represented the builder through all of the transactions, but I really felt almost like a buyer's rep a lot of the times because I was with the buyers who more often than not were unrepresented by a real estate agent. And so I'd take them into a house and I'd hear time over time what they are looking for, how coming into this house impacted them. Mm-hmm. Okay. And so if you're trying to figure out how to position your clients' properties to sell, right, mm-hmm. get your pricing right. If you don't know how to declutter and you don't know how to stage, hire somebody to declutter and stage for you. And then take the perspective of how, if I'm the buyer for this house, how would this house feel to me, right? Mm-hmm. Once your declutter is done and your staging's done, or during your staging, okay, what do I need to showcase here? And a lot of that for me, right, is square footage on the actual house, right? Especially depending upon the square footage of the home, you want to showcase as much floor as possible. So okay. I would say those are a couple of things that I would recommend that we do that I think a lot of agents don't do. I mean, actually, I know a lot of agents don't do. It's not even funny. There are some horrible Zillow photos out there.
I have seen some.
They're horrible. You're like, are you kidding me? And you're a real estate agent? Mm-hmm. If I was a seller, I'd fire you right away.
Yeah, I remember when I was trying to dabble with real estate photography, I reached out to some people that had listed some of their houses with just pictures from their phone, and you could tell from they were from their phone because they'll take the picture vertically. And then Zillow would like automatically rotate it. So the house was like upside down. Yeah. And I would say, hey, like I noticed you might have taken some pictures with your phone or maybe like mobile photos. Would you like to maybe upgrade to some professional pictures or something like that? And I got mixed reactions. Some people were like, yes, of course, we'd like to do that. And some people were like, that's not the way you market or something like that. So, well,
if they're telling you that and they took photos with their phone, don't listen to them because they don't know what the hell they're talking about. I'm just saying.
100%.
Like I have a property right now. Professional photography is always paramount. You have to do it. Mm-hmm. I have a property that we just got over the weekend. Actually, not this weekend, last weekend. Mm-hmm. And it's an investment property. It's in desperate need of some heavy renovations, right? Mm-hmm. And we're going to be priced at $189, okay? But the property is in desperate need of renovations. It's not move-in ready. It has a lot of work that needs to be done. I could have taken these photos with my phone, with the camera that I have, right?
Yeah.
But no, I contacted my photographer that I normally use to photograph my $1 million houses, to photograph this property. I just gave him a heads up. Hey, we're going to need some masks, number one. We may even need some gloves. But it's still an obligation to the seller to put the property out there in its best light. And that absolutely comes with hiring a professional photographer to showcase your properties. Don't try to cut the corners, but that's why agents don't do declutters and they don't do staging because they don't know how and they can't afford it. And with professional photography, they may also not know who to reach out to, even though they're everywhere. But they also really may not be able to afford it. So they try to go the routes that they can and are able to do, not really understanding because they don't care about the customer. Maybe they do, but not to the extent in which we do. They don't really understand the impact that has on the client, but also the impact that it has on that individual's real estate career and reputation.
Yeah,
just saying.
100%. Okay. So last question I had is, I understand now you may not be doing real estate as you used to, right?
Yeah.
Could you explain a little bit about what your career's trajectory has led you to and where you are right now?
That's such a great question, simply because there actually has been a change in that. So I did take a leadership role where I was outside of the field and I was leading a brokerage. And, we had about 74 to 84 agents that was under me. I recently actually left that position and I'm back in the field with my agents and we are out there doing what some of my clients say I was meant for. And so my career trajectory has always been to be my own boss and to be an entrepreneur in this regard, right? That's why we've developed and led the team to where it is and where it's going to go. That's why my wife and I developed Monarch Mail. My goal for this year is to earn my broker's license, which was a goal right from the beginning. And then we'll see from there. We'll see. If you're a fan of an entrepreneur mindset, right? Quick word of advice for real estate agents out there. Do not tell your broker because most brokers will not support you being an entrepreneur for yourself. They will support you being an entrepreneur for them. They want you to go out there and make as much money for them as possible in the sense of transactions and deals and so on and so forth. And they could be a great broker, but they still want you to be a broker for them. Most brokers do not want you to be a broker for yourself and be an entrepreneur for yourself in that regard. So I would say that getting my broker's license and earning my broker's license by the end of this year is my priority goal right now. And then after that, I can absolutely see going out on my own and starting my own small boutique brokerage, or perhaps even buying into a franchise. I still want to lead a brokerage, but I'd like to lead a brokerage on my terms.
Absolutely phenomenal. That's awesome. Congratulations. Something I wanted to touch on here. You mentioned a brokerage.
Yeah.
I, to this day, I don't know the difference. I've always just spoken face to face to a realtor.
Right.
But I understand the realtors work on the realties and brokerages. Right. And sometimes they're part of a team, but not necessarily a brokerage. Could you describe more or less what these teams or, agglomeration of real estate professionals will look like? And when would you want to go one way or another?
Yeah, great question. So when you first get your real estate license, you're more often than not, at least here in Texas, you're referred to as an active salesperson, a real estate salesperson. You have to join NAR, or the National Association of Realtors, to be called a realtor, right? And here in Texas, in San Antonio, you have to join the local board, which is SABOR, the San Antonio Board of Realtors. And it's through our SABOR affiliation that we're required to join NAR, which is why we are realtors, but we're active salespeople when it comes to TREC, the Texas Real Estate Commission. So if you look up my license in TREC, you'll see a salesperson, which is basically the first real estate license that I can get, is a salesperson's license. Then I joined the board of realtors, the San Antonio Board of Realtors, and it's through my affiliation with them where they mandate that I join NAR, that I can call myself a realtor, right? So your salesperson or your real estate agent, right, your realtor, they are primarily that first level of real estate license that you can obtain from not having a real estate license. The second level is a broker's license. I would say every state, perhaps every local government may have different requirements in terms of what you'll need to call yourself a broker after obtaining your broker's license, or to get your broker's license in period in general. Here in Texas, after our salesperson's license, then we have a list of requirements set out by the Texas Real Estate Commission that we need to meet or achieve in order for us to be eligible to sit for our broker's exam. As an active salesperson, when I first get my real estate license, in order for me to practice real estate, not only do I have to join the local board, I also have to place my license with a broker. A broker, again, is that second tier of licensing where you're more experienced and more educated. You're a manager, you're a supervisor, you are held to higher responsibility levels. Mm-hmm. And so if I just get my active salesperson's license, then I'm not allowed to practice real estate until I hang my license with a broker. And again, a broker could be any of those organizations such as, Remax, Keller Williams, Century 21, things of that nature. So your broker's license is that higher level of responsibility, but also education and experience. And so when you're talking to a real estate agent, most real estate agents that you talk to, like myself, have our real estate salesperson's license. So we are realtors. If I was a broker, or when I get my broker's license, I will be, and if I'm still with my current broker, when I get my broker's license, I will be what's called a broker associate. Instead of introducing myself to you as a real estate agent, I would say, hey, my name is Joel. I'm a real estate broker. Right. Oh. Now I'm going to utilize the change in my title in terms of my license because introducing yourself or saying you are a broker is more. There's more weight behind it, from the consumer side, because it's led to believe that if you're a broker, you have more experience, you have more knowledge, you should be better suited to help me achieve my goals in that regard. So most agents that you meet are real estate salespeople, and the people that you probably don't meet are maybe they're brokers that operate the brokerage or the real estate office in general.
Okay. Awesome. Thank you. That clears out that question off my bucket. Now it makes sense.
Yeah.
Okay. Last question I had for you, just a fun one. Do you have any tips for homeowners or people who are looking to buy a house as to how to go about it? Like, for example, one of the things I've done before is just apply to multiple lenders, right? So that I have competitive rates.
Sure.
Do you have anything from the real estate estate agent side, maybe, that you could give to new buyers or, buyers?
I'm going to make it very, very simple. If you are a future home buyer or home seller or current home buyer or current home seller, partner with the right real estate agent, period. The right real estate agent who is an experienced professional will be able to guide you through this entire process and will be your best asset in your process, for sure, 100%. So that's my advice. If you want to make things easy on yourself in this process, in terms of buying or selling, get with a real estate agent that you trust. And I would say, ask your friends, ask your family members, go to Google, look at Google reviews, and then reach out to somebody that you are comfortable with or that comes recommended, for sure. Start there, and then they will help you with the rest of the process. That's where I would start.
Okay. Makes sense. That's what I did. All right, Joel, I appreciate your time. I want to be mindful of your day.
Thank you.
Do you have anything you'd like to share?
Thank you, Misa, for everything. Your friendship has been one of the most important friendships that I have, simply because we know each other on a personal level. You came to Monarch Mail for our grand opening, our soft opening. Big fans. We have great conversations. So I just want to thank you for your friendship, and I want to thank you for everything. And I wish you absolutely the best of luck with everything that you're doing. And if there's anything that we can do to help or to support you, just let me know, man.
Perfect. Thank you, Joel. I appreciate it.
All right, brother.
That's episode 1.
All right. See ya.
Thank you, Joel.
Yeah.
Okay. So what did we learn about Joel? Just like to me, Joel is always a friend to his clients. He made sure for you to understand that it is his priority for you to trust his guidance. His most important marketing avenue is the personal relationship that he develops with each client. This, of course, results in more referrals and good reviews and more business. Lastly, we understand Joel is a very friendly person. Joel is someone I can trust, someone I can refer to my friends and family, but he's also very professional. He's someone who likes modern architecture, someone who appreciates good real estate. So Joel not only showcases his personality as a very friendly person, but he makes sure to stay always professional. So how did I approach the brand design for Joel Realty? First, I like to say Joel did not ask me to do this. It's just an exercise for myself. So keep that in mind. Starting off, let's take a look at some fonts. Okay, very simple to start. We're looking at someone who is very professional and friendly. So our utmost priority when it comes to fonts is looking at clean lines and soft edges. So we landed with 4 different types of fonts. We have Helvetica, we have Teco, Red Hat, and Sora. Helvetica, of course, is a phenomenal font. You'll see it in many logos. For this use, Helvetica in the bold font happens to be maybe a little bit too big. In this case, it's towering over the clients in competition, which isn't bad, but in the message that Joel is trying to convey is not underpinning exactly the personality for his brand. Teco is a little closer to what we're looking for. However, it seems to be a little shy from being a little bit more rounded. As you can see here, it has very clean cut lines, but when it has to be rounded, it just shies a little. It's not fully round. It's trying to still be square. So it's indecisive. It doesn't clearly convey that message of friendliness. Red Hat is in the opposite end. It's maybe too round. Maybe dismissing a little bit the clean cut lines that we're looking for that may have been present in Helvetica but missing in Teco. Finally, perfect font for this solution would be Sora. As you can see, Sora has very clean cut lines, but it respects the perfect radius that comes with a soft edge. Sora ultimately being the font that will represent this brand. Even though Sora is a great font, it's not perfect. You can see here when we start drawing some guidelines, there's some spacing issues. The space between the O and the E is very different from the space between the J and the O. And the same can be said between the E and the L. The positioning of the O, the E, and the L are not perfectly aligned. So with some Illustrator magic, we'll make sure that these are in line and now they're perfectly square. Okay, next question then, colors. How do we decide what colors to go with? Let's go back again to think about what is the intent or message for Joel's brand. Very friendly person, very professional. What are friendly colors? Typically, you'll think about blue or green. There's some associations that we have with color. For example, when we think of blue, you're thinking of the ocean, you're thinking of the sky, you're thinking of serenity. You're also thinking about America. You're thinking about your country, your flag, you're thinking about nationalism. When you think about green, you're thinking typically about environment. You're thinking about friendliness. You're thinking about help. You're maybe thinking about a landscape, which are all great. Now, how do we pick between one or the other? I started looking at the competition. Let's see what the bigger competitors have to say when it comes to their logos. Here we have Remax, EXP, Keller Williams, and Coldwell Banker. These are great real estate firms. But what do they have in common when it comes to their logos? They're either red or blue. Joel is a great real estate agent. Why would he want to look like the competition? Blue is out of the question. So here's where we land. We have a very bright, punching, very strong green to signify the importance of relationship and professionalism that Joel has in his realty. Now, this is very simplistic because it is. Many people make the mistake to think that logos need to be overly ornate. It's actually the opposite. You want to convey a message so clear that it takes you about a second or two for you to very precisely understand what the message is. The more you add to it, the more confusing it gets. The message gets diluted. Having a very clean font that represents professionalism, friendliness, and a color that perfectly matches that message is the right way to go forward. But we can do a little more than that. This J that we have is very friendly because in another way, it's also conveying a smile. So why not add eyes to it? Now you have a face to look at whenever you look at the iconography for Joel Realty. And it has many uses. It gets me excited to think about, but I think my excitement could probably be better communicated if I showed you some examples. Here we have a potential future office for Joel Realty. You can see that in combination with a very clean slogan, such as opening all doors, very understandable, very approachable, very over-encompassing. We understand that Joel is here to provide a very clean and very friendly approach to your business. Along with the integration of the architecture and very clean interior design of this office, it goes perfectly well. It's networking time. Now we have some business cards in an ocean of red and blue. At a networking event, this business card is not getting lost. You're looking at it. You know what it means. You know who this person is. That is Joel's Realty. Maybe we're back at a college campus trying to recruit the next generation for real estate agents or salespeople who will aid in the mission of Joel's Realty. No problem here. Works perfectly well. And maybe we've developed some fans. Now we have customers or maybe some charitable event, public event that Joel Realty will be part of, where we'll be handing out these different hats that people will be able to wear and care for. Finally, of course, we're going to have to do some of the marketing elements that you'll put in front of your products. As you can see in here, it's such an easy message to convey. Have you met Joel yet? I don't know. I haven't. But this looks like a very friendly person. And it looks clean and professional. So I do want to meet Joel. I hope you liked this first episode of the 5 to 9 podcast. It is my personal venture into brand identity and design and a passion of mine. I hope you come back for the second episode. Who knows who we'll have? Maybe it'll be a pastry chef, a restaurant owner, could be a lawyer, maybe it's an accountant. Who knows? But whoever it is, I know you have a story to tell and you should be in my podcast. If you're interested in being part of the 5 to 9 podcast, please shoot me an email. Look into the description of this video and I'll love to work with you. We'll see you next in the second episode. Bye.